Hello, if you're just joining us, this is video number 9 of our deep dive into some county data. And the last place we left off is we created a VLOOKUP that finds a population of whatever county we choose, from whatever state we chose, for whatever year we chose, and it returns that population. So we have Alaska here. Let's do a different state. Let's do Florida. So Bay County had 168,000 people in 2010, and I can choose a different year, and then it'll tell me the population for that county for that decade. So that's good. So now all we have to do really is copy this formula down to our other rows. And there's a couple different ways we can do that. The easiest way is just highlighting the cell and then clicking on the blue dot and dragging it down all the way to the end of our list, where we have Polk County, I guess, and click enter, and oh no, we've got all these different problems. What went wrong with our formula? It was working so well right here, and now it broke. Well, actually, this is a fairly easy fix, and I knew this was going to happen. So when we do a VLOOKUP, this right here is called a relative reference. So basically, what we're looking for are the cells, not necessarily like F4 or A to O or whatever, but basically like relative to the position that we are looking at now. And here's an illustration of that. So right here it says VLOOKUP E7 data A to O, F4 comma false. So I'm looking at F4. If I'm in F7, I'm looking for whatever's in F4, which is right here. But if I click on F8 and look at this, now I'm looking for whatever's in F5, which is nothing. And then if I click on F9, it says I'm looking for F6. So basically what's happening is every time I go down a row, I'm also looking down a row. So I'm not stuck on F12. I'm basically wherever I go down, I'm looking down that much farther. And so now I'm trying to look up these different things. And so like when I have this ref, that's because I'm trying to look up value, which doesn't even work. And so what I need to do is figure out a way to make the F4 stay F4. And that's actually really, really simple to do. So click back on F7. And what we want to do is we want to create an absolute reference. So a relative reference is relative to where I am. We want to make this an absolute reference. And so we're going to click on F7. And then we're going to make sure that we stay looking at row 4. So we're going to click right between the F and the 4. So put your cursor there so it's right between the F and the 4, and just add a $sign. So shift 4. Put a $sign there. And that basically makes this row absolute. We could also do the same for the F if we wanted to. This will make the column absolute. We don't necessarily have to here because we're not going over. If we were going to make our formula go over to the right, then we would have to make the column absolute as well. But we're going to look in F no matter what. But it's definitely a good idea to do both. It can't hurt. So now that I have this into an absolute reference, now I can just do Control C, and then I'm going to hold down my Shift and Control buttons at the same time and click the down arrow. That selects everything. And then I'm going to just type in Control V. And now I've got this absolutely perfect formula, and notice wherever I go, it's only looking at F4 up there. So now all of this stuff is going to work. I can scroll back up here, and that looks much, much better. Now, before we get into some calculations, we also need to make sure that we get this right in terms of like what it returns. Florida has a bunch of counties, so everything here has a number by it. But what if I chose, let's say, Delaware? I know Delaware has a very few counties. So then I end up with all these NAs, which basically what it's saying is it did not find a lookup. So it's looking for a blank because that's what's right here, and it's not finding it in data because we only looked at a range of values that had something in it. So we need to do something about this. Some people just leave their sheets like this because, well, what are you going to do? You don't have to leave your sheet like this. In fact, it's better to have your sheet only return values when there are values, and that makes it look better. And it also makes it better to calculate things, because sometimes when you try to like do an addition calculation to find like a total population or something, these NAs are going to break that. So we want to make sure that we don't have them. So again, this is one of those fairly easy fixes. We just have to add to our original formula a little bit. So go ahead and click up on F6 to where we started this formula to begin with. So now we're clicked on F6. So now we just want to go way up to the formula here and click your cursor between the equal and the V for VLOOKUP. So that's where it should be, equals, and your cursor is right there. Then we're going to make an if conditional. So type in the word if, and then a parentheses. So we're basically saying if, now we need to add, what are we ifing? What are we conditioning this on? So type in E7. So we're saying if E7, which is right here, okay, equals, no, actually type in the less than sign and then the greater than sign. That means does not equal. So if E7 does not equal, and then type in two quotes, quote, 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 which means blank. So in terms of formulas, quote, quote means blank, like there's nothing in that column, in that cell. And then the less than sign, greater than sign means does not equal. So if E7 does not equal blank, comma. So what we're saying is if E7 does not equal a blank row, then do this VLOOKUP, because we want to do the VLOOKUP. Now at the very, very end, after the last parentheses, now we want to say what to do if it does equal blank. So let's add a comma and then just do a quote, quote. So we're saying if E7 isn't blank, then look it up. Look up whatever's in there and find the population. But if it is blank, then just give us blank. Don't give us anything. Don't return anything. And then just do a final parentheses and click enter. So now when we copy and paste this formula down, it should replace all these NAs with basically a blank cell. So let's go ahead and do that. I've clicked on F7. I'm going to click Control C, and then I'm going to hold down my Control and Shift key at the same time and click the down arrow. That selects everything. Then I'm going to click Control V, and look, everything disappeared, and I can just click Enter, and there we go. So now when I select different places, Colorado, only the counties that have anything in them will show values. Now there's one more fix we need to do, and that is because we selected Florida. Florida does have a lot of counties. Texas has the most. So Texas has, 255, I think. So we go down here, and we don't even have the formula in here. Our formula ended here. So what we really want to do is make sure that we continue this formula all the way down. So I can just highlight the formula and do Control C, and now I'm just going to use my scroll button or scrolly thing on my mouse and go all the way down to the last county name, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift button while I click into F260. That highlights everything, and then I'm going to do Control V, and then that does all of these. So we've got that done. Now we can do all of our calculations and whatnot with all of the states, and we're not going to have any NAs at all. So that'll be on the next video. So we're done with this one. Jump on the next video.